Abu Bakr spent his childhood, like other Arab children of that time, among the Bedouins, who called themselves the people of the camels. Therefore, he developed a fondness for camels. In his early years, he used to play with the camel calves and goats. His famous kunya, Abu Bakr, the father of the camel's calf, was because of his love and fondness for camels. It is reported that once in his early childhood, he was taken to Kaaba by his father. His father left him there and went to attend some errands. The child Hadrat Abu Bakr was left alone among the many idols kept around Kaaba. The child Hadrat Abu Bakr went to an idol and said, "I need beautiful clothes. Please give them to me." But the idol remained indifferent. He then went to another idol and addressed it, saying, "Give me some delicious food. Do not you know I am hungry?" The idol did not reply. This angered the child Hadrat Abu Bakr. He lifted a stone addressing that idol and said, "Look, I am aiming a stone at you. If you have the power, protect yourself." Then he hurled the stone, which hit the idol. The idol remained silent. Hadrat Abu Bakr then left the Kaaba and never went near an idol and remained monotheist all through his life. Like other children of rich Meccan trading families, Hadrat Abu Bakr was literate and fond of poetry and used to attend poetical symposia. He had a very good memory. He also had the knowledge of genealogy of the Arab tribes, their narratives, and their politics. It is reported that he used to attend the annual fair of Ukais. Ukais was a marketplace located between Nakhla and Taif in Arabia. It was largest and best-known seasonal market in pre-Islamic times, which operated for 2 weeks each year during the month of Dhul al-Qa'dah. Acceptance of Islam. At the time of declaration of prophethood by Prophet Muhammad, it is reported that Abu Bakr was with a trading caravan in Yemen. When he returned from Yemen, it was informed to him that Prophet Muhammad has declared prophethood. Since Hadrat Abu Bakr was the close friend of the Prophet, he knew his sincerity and honesty from the childhood. He accepted the call of Prophet without any hesitation and publicly accepted Islam. It is said that he was among the first persons from outside the home of the Apostle who accepted Islam. The first persons to accept Islam from the Prophet's household among females were Al-Mu'mineen Khadija bint Khuwaylid, daughter Sayyidah Zainab, Ruqayya, Kulthum, Fatima, and Ayman, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu ajmeen. Among males were Hadrat Ali, Hadrat
Zayd ibn Harith,
and some other accounts narrate that Hadrat Abu Bakr was in Mecca at the time of declaration of prophethood by Muhammad, and when he was told about the prophethood of Muhammad, he accepted it. Thus, he was the first person outside the home of the Prophet to have accepted Islam. The Prophet said, "I called people to Islam, and everyone thought over it for a while before acceptance." However, it was not the case with Hadrat Abu Bakr, as he accepted it without any second thought. Later, those who accepted Islam at the instance of Hadrat Abu Bakr include Uthman ibn Affan, Zubair bin Awam, Talha ibn Ubaidullah, Abdur Rahman ibn Awf, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, Abu Salama, Khalid ibn Said, etc. Radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Among the early converts to Islam were many slaves who did not have any protection enjoyed by freemen who had accepted Islam, as they were protected by their tribes. Thus, these slaves, who mostly served the Meccan pagans, suffered severe persecution by them. Hadrat Abu Bakr felt compassion for these slaves, and it is reported that he bought the freedom of 4 men and 4 women from their masters who has accepted Islam. These included Bilal ibn Rabah, Abu Fukri, Ammar bin Yasir, and Abu Fahira, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. The women were Labaina and Nadia, Ubuwais, and Haritha bint al-Mu'ammal. Persecution in Mecca. For about 3 years after the advent of Islam, Muslims kept their faith secret. In 614, the Prophet Muhammad was commanded by Allah to call people to Islam openly. Following the divine command, the Prophet Muhammad went on the top of Safa Hill, which is close by Kaaba, and called different clans by their names. They came in a hurry. The Prophet said, "If I were to tell you that there was an enemy ready to attack you, would you believe me?" They said, "Yes, as we never heard from you anything except the truth." He said, "I am a warner to you of a very severe punishment if you do not come back to the rightful belief, which is, there is no God but Allah, and I am his apostle." At-Tabari reported that the Prophet's announcement was met with ridicule from Abu Lahab, and the guests dispersed. On another occasion, one of the chiefs of Quraysh, Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt, saw the Prophet praying next to the Kaaba. He took the clothes of the Prophet and strangled him forcefully. Abu Bakr, who was nearby, came and pushed him away from the Prophet and said, "Do you want to kill a person because he says, 'Allah is my Lord'?" It is reported that Hadrat Abu Bakr was beaten by the crowd in Kaaba. Amr ibn Hisham al-Makhzumi was known for his opposition to Prophet Muhammad, and he was one of the main leaders of Meccan polytheists. He was given the kunya of Abu Jahl by Muslims. He was not related to Prophet Muhammad and had become the arch enemy of the Prophet and early Muslims. Once, when the Prophet was praying in Kaaba, and when he was in prostration, Abu Jahl asked his associates to put the stinking innards of a camel on the back of the Prophet. And when they did that, Abu Jahl and his associates started mocking the Prophet loudly. Prophet's little daughter ran towards him and removed that filth from him, and the Prophet completed his prayer. The Prophet prayed to Allah to punish them for their persecution. The persecution of the Muslims came to its peak when the Prophet, his family, and his close relatives had to suffer a 3-year-long boycott from the Quraysh between 616 to 19 CE, 5-3 BH. It was a public boycott against Banu Hashim, led by Banu Abd Shams and Banu Makhzum, two important subtribes of Quraysh. Abu Jahl was from Banu Makhzum and Abu Sufyan was from Banu Abd Shams. It was carried out to pressurize Banu Hashim, particularly Hadrat Abu Talib, to withdraw their support and protection to the Prophet so that they can eliminate him. The terms of the boycott were very harsh, as it was declared that no one should marry women belonging to Banu Hashim, nor give women for them to marry, and that no one would trade with them, and no one would maintain any social or financial contact with them. A deed was written, and all important chiefs of tribes in town were forced to sign it, irrespective of whether they liked it or not. This deed was hung on the wall of Kaaba to scare people not to violate the boycott. The public display of the terms of the contract served the purpose of informing any visitors who came to Mecca about the boycott, so that any external help to Banu Hashim could be stopped. Banu Muttalib and Banu Hashim, along with their children and women, were thus forced out of Mecca to a nearby open uninhabited valley called Shib Abu Talib. The intention of the pagans was to leave the Muslims at the mercy of the scorching heat of the sun, in order to starve them to death in the loneliness of the desert. There was no food in this valley, and at times people were forced to eat leaves of the shrubs to survive. When the Prophet would be praying, could hear the cries of the children and women, which would shatter his heart. Despite the horrendous torture and all odds being against Muslims, they not only survived these years, but came out much stronger, and with a clear message that nothing could deter the Prophet, his family, or the Muslims from their faith. Al-Mu'mineen Hadrat Khadija played a big role for the people to survive during this boycott. She used her contacts and all her wealth to provide food for the people. The food was procured from whatever source possible that could be secretly transferred to the people in the darkness of the nights. Muslims, in general, were not part of this boycott, as they did not belong to Banu Hashim. Particularly Hadrat Abu Bakr did his best to support the people held up in Shib Abu Talib from outside. Hadrat Abu Bakr was rich, and it is reported that he used all his wealth in procuring relief to the people held up in Shib Abu Talib. It is reported that through the efforts of Al-Mu'mineen Khadija and other Muslims, people would load their camels with provisions and leave them on the boundaries of the Shib Abu Talib, so the boycotted Muslims could retrieve them during the nights. 3 years passed like this, at the end of which some of the relatives of the besieged finally took a stand against the boycott, and it finally came to an end. The boycott proved to be extremely stressful for Al-Mu'mineen Khadija, as she was in her 60s at that time. She became extremely weak, and after the boycott was over and they returned to their homes, she fell ill and died in that illness in 619 CE at the age of 65. It is reported that Hadrat Abu Talib also died the same year. Thus, this year was called by the Prophet as the Year of Sorrow. A year later, in 620 CE, when Al-Mu'mineen Hadrat Aisha was 6 years old, she was married to Prophet Muhammad but remained with her parents until she was 9 years old.